It's always interesting because if you look at the live videos, there's always like kind of this dead time as it's waiting for it to load.
Yeah, we are in the 5th second, 7 seconds.
The 5th second of actually streaming. Is this live?
Yes, we are
Oh,
live
we're live now.
at Friday Faves on
Friday
October
Faves.
16th with the Change Physician. Welcome.
Welcome, 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 and welcome, Melissa. How are you?
I am good. I'm just really excited. It's the weekend, and
Really?
yeah, I actually just been one of those busy weeks, so I'm looking to some decompressing over the weekend, and my favorite thing at the end of the week, Friday Faves.
I like the Friday Faves thing, but I kind of think about that. It's like, man, our weekends just, I guess now that the kids are in school, it's a little bit different, but not much.
Yeah.
Weekends are like everything else, kind of. Anyway.
Well, for those that are, just coming in now, this is Friday Faves with the Change Physician podcast and community. If you want to learn more about us, I'm Melissa Cady, and my co-host is Kevin Cuccaro, and you can learn more about us at thechangephysician.com. And our Friday Faves, we like to just talk about our favorite things of the past week, but we like to hit a little bit of the past, our current, present, things that we're grateful for, which are our favorite things, and then what future episodes are coming up. You want to, you look like you want to say something, Kevin.
No, I'm just looking.
Looking.
It's like all the stuff on my screen, so it probably make it look like a goofball, but.
Oh, that's okay. Well, we're both goofballs. Let's make sure that people know what just happened this past week. As far as our most recent releases, we had Dr. David Durginas on how to start a podcast as a physician, which is his return interview with us. And you can hear his story, his full story as an anesthesiologist and podcaster. Of course, he has some really cool things going on that Kevin might want to share, but his episode 10 was his original story, and episode 32 is his second one, which talks about how to start a podcast. Any comments with about David?
Other than holy crap, he was on as number 10 and then he's number 32.
Yeah, he was spread out a little bit.
Wow. No, and then it's like, oh my God, I can't believe we have 32 published episodes already. But
yes.
No, it's a great episode, and it's always fun to talk to Dave. I just love the guy, obviously. Doctors Unbound is his podcast, done really well. And he's just really kind of epitomized being a consistent producer. So producing something through the long, dark nights of the internet era, when you're just talking in the void and no one seems to be listening to you, he really epitomized that well and did some other strategic things. So in that particular episode, he talks about his early journey, why he started a podcast, some hints about podcasting, and then on introduced his latest project with the Physician Podcast Network, which is a network for new and established physician podcasters to help each other out through that process, and some other things that there are details at the Physician Podcasting Network. I think it's physicianpodcastingnetwork.com, but we can figure that out later. Yeah. And then the other episode that we had was with Dr. Anna Kabeka, on how to hire well in the online space. She was also a previous guest, except she was episode 30. And then so she came back for episode 33. And I really enjoyed that because, we do a lot of internet stuff. And so I've been creeping about the internet space for a long time, and, not the dark, dirty corners, but the good corners, and just kind of ghosting around in there. And so there was some absolute gems in both of her interviews. Mm-hmm. And because she's really made an online business. So if you want to look at somebody who's really crafted a business as a physician in an online space that has provided her remarkable freedom and a lot of connection and meaning in her life, that was a great episode. And then she obviously had to scale that by hiring people, which is, for control freaks like most physicians, it's kind of intimidating to do. And so she had some hints in there. I really, really, really enjoyed it. So those were both really, really fun episodes to do. Yeah. So, and then, what do you want to go to? Do you want to go? We're not going to the future yet. You want to talk about the faves?
Yeah. What about you? You always make me go first. Why don't you talk about your Friday fave?
My Friday
actually, you did say the first one last time, but would you like to do your Friday fave first?
I'm going to do my Friday fave because it's pretty easy. It's one of those things that you don't notice until it's gone. And this starts as a story of last week when we were doing a podcast and I was talking and then you're like, wait, what happened? What happened? Your microphone's off. And I'm like, what are you talking about? My microphone's fine. And the guest was like, your microphone's not working. And you do what you normally do and you jiggle this and jiggle that. And you wonder if it's the internet. Well, lo and behold, it was my microphone, which died, like literally just died.
Really?
Which was totally bizarre. And once it's gone, you're like, oh my God, doesn't sound as good. I like having a microphone. It doesn't sound as tinny, at least when I'm recording stuff. And so I end up getting the replacement, which is this guy. They're both Ars Technica. This one I think is a little slightly upgraded model, and it just arrived today.
Oh,
literally
how lucky.
1 hour before we got on. I was so excited. I'm like, oh my gosh.
So is that a USB port insert?
It has both. It has the USB and then it has the I forgot what it's called. I use the other one because I have a soundboard that I use.
Oh wow.
So I don't use the USB, but it does have that. And
so what is this? How big is the soundboard? Like a keyboard kind of size?
No, it's like, those things that you see, like if you're ever watching like those movies with the musicians in it, and there's like in the musician studio, and they have that massive board on the outside in the sound studio with all the wire dials and stuff. I have one of those, and it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 channels that I could put stuff into. That's because the guy who I learned podcasting from long back in the dinosaur age was super anal about sound. Like that was his thing. And he's like, you don't, all the stuff people like, don't record into GarageBand, don't do this, don't record directly from your computer. And he recommended the soundboard and an external recording device so that the sound quality is better. So I have this thing. Theoretically, I could do sound effects and I could do all this other stuff.
Wow.
But I don't know how to use any of that. So it's just a really expensive microphone setup is what it comes down to.
It sounds like it. Well, yeah. I don't know. What's mine sound like? Does it sound good?
It's not. It sounds pretty good. I think the biggest. Well, and here's the other thing I've noticed is I'm going to talk about sound a little bit. Is what I've noticed even during our podcast interviews, even with other podcasters.
Right.
And people tend to put their microphone way down. And really what you want to be is about 2 inches away. Yeah. So your mouth should be close to that pop shield.
Like so right here.
Right there. This is the thing. Go look at like the professional podcasters or people in the who's the dude who has the big radio station with long hair and sunglasses?
Howard Stern,
that guy. But you have your voice close because what you want to be able to so your gain's not super high, you're not picking up a lot of extra noise, and then you're projecting directly through the microphone with the pop shield. So you want to be closer to it.
And the pop shield, for those that you'll learn some of this stuff probably. I think it may have been in the episode, but when you say the P or the other, you don't want that pop sound like blowing air on the microphone. So that's what this little pop shield is for. So I'm no high techie person, but I learn a few things off the internet.
You don't want to be popping your peas. Yeah.
No popping peas.
No popping peas. But anyway, so that's my favorite thing is I miss my microphone. This has served me well.
Yeah. But it's time to bury it.
It's time to bury it now. Although I feel bad. Like all this equipment, you're always like, oh, I'm sure there's just some little tiny thing that someone can fix. It'll cost more than
you know what you need to do? You need to keep that as a prop. And anytime you want to say drop the mic, you just drop the mic. So just saying.
But they're not that light. This thing is like it would clunk on the floor.
Yeah, you know.
I mean,
well, you can find the right place, the right time.
Yeah.
People freak out.
I'll put a pillow next to me so I can just drop it into the pillow.
There you go. There you go. Just to add a little exaggeration there.
So that's my favorite thing. The other favorite thing was part of my favorite things. I can't remember if it was last week or the week before. Is my book called "Mistakes Were Made, but Not by Me," by Carol Tavris and Aronson, which I talked about in a previous Friday Faves. I just love these books that give you insights into how the human brain works. And it's all about cognitive dissonance and dissonance reduction. And what's fascinating is then they take like dissonance theory, which is really kind of central to how we as humans sort of navigate the world. And then each chapter they reflect it into a specific arena. So personal relationships, work environments. They've actually had a whole chapter on dissonance in healthcare professions, and how, why people do, why clinicians do the crazy things that they do, and how they justify it to themselves.
Right.
Like, in just some, and yeah, so really, really good insights. I've been really, really enjoying that. And actually got some really good takeaways from it too. So that's my two favorites. One new,
Nice.
one old. How about you?
Well, I just came up with one. I mean, the one that came to mind was a book. This is strange. I got a random text from a physician or a surgeon, a lady surgeon that I knew from medical school. And she's like, "Hey, can I send you a book?" And I was thinking like a book link. I'm like, "Sure." I'm like, "Where'd you send it?" She's like, "No, goofball, I want to send it to your house." So apparently mailed me from Amazon, and I picked it up. And the moment I got it, within 24 hours, I already read the first 4 chapters. But in fact, I will drop the link in the comments here. That it's called Between Grit and Grace, and I think the full title says The Art of Being Feminine and Formidable. And it just was released this past February, by Sasha Shilcutt, MD. Might be someone we might want to consider as a guest for the Change Physician. But I don't know, it's something that's easy to relate to. And she's created her own community of physicians who, they're juggling a lot of things. And there's always these questions of, who are you really? And are you doing these things because it's kind of demanded of you? And it's kind of, you want to remain feminine, and there's different expectations in this society, but yet you are a physician. You need to have some kind of, it takes grit even just to get through training, and just to deal with many times a male dominated workplace. And it's changing a lot, but there's still a lot of leadership positions that are rarely, carried by women. And so there's that constant struggle of, I think the thing that hit me the most is she talks about how suddenly she's very much into fashion, and she, that was who she was. And then through the grueling training and the way you were just kind of living your day-to-day life, she lost all of that. Like, there wasn't a sense of her own personality and her own loves. It wasn't shining through, and so she wasn't happy. And so I haven't gotten through the whole thing, but if there's any female physicians or any females that are any, struggling with any leadership positions out there that are trying to figure out how to understand themselves and live between those places of total grit or total grace, and feeling like you are yourself again, I think this is an awesome book. I'll let you know next week or the following week whenever I finish it. It's been kind of busy this week, but I hope maybe I'll finish it this weekend. But great little read, and easy to go through. So that was my favorite for this past week, because literally I started the book this past week. So awesome. But yeah, and a potential future guest if she's willing. So we'll see.
Well, and that's a great topic, I think, to bring up, because we remember we talked to Eric Tate, who was an awesome guest, about being a Black physician in America, which had some really good insights. And when you're coming from a place of privilege, and if you are a white man, you're coming from a place of privilege. Unless you're really aware and you're not following this stuff, you really don't have an appreciation. I think, a lot of the backlash is people not being able to just take a moment and rise up a little bit and see what the big picture is. But for women physicians, women in positions of leadership in general, there are struggles associated with that, depending on where you are. But for women physicians, for sure. I mean, the comments that they get, the things that people say, my wife's a physician. Obviously, you're a physician. My friends are a lot of physicians. And it's just kind of interesting, the different perspectives that you get from a female versus a male, and the things that they're subjected to, even just from not only their colleagues, you can talk about that, in the hierarchy that's there, and how different behaviors between different sexes, or I should say the same behavior in two different sexes, have very different perceptions associated with them, which are completely wrong. But just the way patients relate to people, which that one always is kind of shocking to me, is why you wouldn't say that to a male doctor, and yet you're saying this to a female doctor. And then you can kind of add that into the whole figs scrub thing, which is the social media outrage of the week. If you see that.
Yes, the figs.
Oh my God.
An upside down idiot's guide.
Medical terminology for dummies.
Right.
Held upside down. Yeah.
Yeah. And a little label that says DO on it.
Yeah.
Like
everybody.
I don't know if that was because there were comments all over Twitter about, the president's physician's a DO, and like, I don't know when that actually went up. I didn't look at the timing of all that. But for those of you out there, Kevin and I are both DOs. And if you don't know what a DO is, it's based on your medical school, because most training afterwards is many times in the MD world, or allopathic medicine, they call it. MDs don't call themselves allopathic medical doctors. It's just they're considered medical doctors is how people see it. But our first 4 years of training are similar in a lot of schools. First 2 years, lots of books. Next 2 years, lots of rotations and all kinds of specialties. And there's a philosophy that goes with osteopathic medicine, but a lot of MDs practice very holistically as well, and see the person as a whole, and that everything's connected and the body is self-healing. And most people get that, but that's kind of the tenets of osteopathic medicine. They have 4 tenets of that. But it's just like anything. You have a foundational learning, and then you add on to that with additional training. I mean, it's kind of like you might have great training from your parents, but you end up surrounding yourself in bad environments, or you're not following good, ethics or morals later. Like you can still, basically your initial training doesn't really determine 10 years later where you're at. There are some MDs that aren't, I would say most physicians are, the hearts are in the right place. Most DOs are hearts in the right place, and they're competent physicians, but there's always going to be a small fraction of people that deviate or outside the bell curve. I'm sure, Kevin, I'm just kind of rambling here, but I think there's, nowadays the stigma about DOs is kind of falling to the wayside. And for those of you that are not familiar with the history, it was an MD that started the DO whole profession in the late 1890s, mainly because there was a lot of exsanguination of people and things that just he didn't like Andrew Still. So he became the first MD DO, and then the DO profession took off from there. And then it was primarily musculoskeletal focused, but then it integrated pharmacology, these other things. And so it merged with a lot of the MD training in the mid 1900s, or early to mid 1900s. So, and the military started taking DOs, the first ones, and, they became equivalent MDs and DOs. But there was still that little stigma and, that stereotype, but they didn't have good grades. And, nowadays it's just not really relevant. Anything you want to add to that, Kevin?
Well, there's all sorts of stuff to add, but
yeah.
I mean, the biggest thing is, like, if you kind of think about dentists, there's DDSs and there's DMDs, Doctor of Dental Surgery and Doctor of Medical Dentistry. And my understanding of that is they used to have something different, and there may be some slight difference. For some, I think DMDs, I don't know, they're going to co-programs or whatever, but no one that looks at their dentist and goes, are you a DDS versus a DMD?
Yeah.
And my suspicion is at some point that's going to happen with osteopathic medicine and allopathic medicine, just because of the way, the matches are now combined. And, people are all up in arms. Some people are up in arms. I think it's a good thing. I think it's a stupid distinction, because if you go back to the beginning of when osteopathy was founded, is because medicine at the time was freaking awful.
Yeah.
You're talking about, bloodletting, but they were also giving poisons.
Yeah.
They had no idea what they were doing. Medical education at the time was a joke, because it was all this apprenticeship stuff.
Yep.
What happened, though, obviously, was with the Flexner report, was then allopathic medicine, MD programs, got their act together. And really, that's when they focused on science and evidence-based. And that actually
Early 1900s, like
Early
1910s.
yeah, early 1900s, and then it also changed all medical schools at the time, or very quickly went to nonprofit institutions, which was a big deal because part of the Flexner report is actually saying for-profit medical education is a bad thing. That's a whole different discussion because there is a couple for-profit medical schools now, and unfortunately they are DO schools. But that's a
yeah.
yeah. Long and short of it is the equivalency is going away. I think what happened with the FIGS ad, because it wasn't just physicians, but it was also they had another one with a male nurse. Same thing, same book upside down. So, but it's like, okay, wait, now you're making women doctors, and then specifically women osteopathic physicians, and then male nurses, as because there's obviously some people think that men can't be nurses, and then now you're making. I mean, who would have thought? You don't do
very
that.
Ignorant.
Absolutely ignorant. So that was an unfavorite thing for the week.
Yeah, well, we have to throw those in when they're very, very important. God, there was something else off of that conversation. Yeah, I just, DOs and MDs can do any specialty. What's interesting though, for those that are from around the world, it's good to know that if you're an osteopath trained in another country, most other countries, that's more of like an equivalent of more of the chiropractic musculoskeletal world, if you want to kind of like somehow put them in a same bucket. But in this country, osteopathic medicine, or DOs here, you're actually doctors of osteopathic medicine, not just of osteopathy, which, it's semantics and it depends who you talk to. But it took till like, I think 2000 something, around 2000-ish, for Australia and New Zealand to recognize that DOs were actually legit fully licensed physicians. And so it took other countries to understand that our training is different than just a straightforward osteopathic musculoskeletal expert. So there you go.
No,
I actually did a paper on that and researched on that. So that's why
I actually have the book, The DOs by what's his face.
Oh,
you remember that book?
No. Maybe I actually probably came across it in my research. I just don't remember.
Oh, it was because I was on a military scholarship, and this is one of the bad things is the military pays for your books, right? And so our professors would make required book lists, and then they would tell people, you don't really have to get all these, but they're for the students on the military scholarships. So I have like stacks and stacks of books on osteopathic medicine, and I think that one of them was the DOs, which was the history of osteopathic medicine, which was really super fascinating. Because the antagonism between the two professions was pretty evident early on. Anything that you're getting into a turf war has a tendency to devolve very quickly into name calling. And California, which at the time, like half of DOs in the 1950s were in that area. I think in California, there's this big fight with the medical board of California and the osteopathic medical board. And what ended up happening is they did a
dual license.
They absorbed all the osteopathic medical schools in California, converted them to MD institutions, and then all the graduates had to take like a 1 hour test, some little equivalency thing. And the osteopathic physicians in the world, because this was in the heart of the battle, becoming evil allopaths and the whatever osteopaths, and they were like, oh no, we're going to lose our profession. But it was actually the best thing that ever happened, because then the courts looked at it and they're like, hey, California just says you have to take this 1 hour exam and you're the same. So, obviously there must be no real difference in the medical education. So that thing that ended up losing half of the osteopathic medical profession there, I think like Irvine was originally an osteopathic medical school, if I'm remembering correctly. Don't quote me on that, but there's a couple state schools in California that started off as osteopathic programs. That ended up creating this equivalency where people then started recognizing that there really was no mountains of difference. From a personal standpoint, obviously, I don't know if this was at your school. We tended to have older students in a lot of ways.
Some of us, yeah.
You had straight to whatever, but like one of my good friends, who ended up being a really good friend, he was 40 when he started medical school because he was a pilot. and he always wanted to be a doctor or whatever.
Yeah.
And so you have this kind of different stuff. But that being said, I trained at all allopathic institutions. I trained with everybody from everywhere. And you couldn't necessarily, you never knew where their medical school was.
Yeah.
Based on that. Yeah. So anyway, it's kind of interesting stuff.
Yeah. No, we went on a tangent. We had no idea we were going down.
No, we didn't. We didn't. Yeah.
Go figure. Sorry, that was bad pun. If you didn't catch the early part of the conversation, we're talking about Figs, the company that we're giving a spotlight to right now because of their poor behavior and demonstration of ignorance about stereotypes and presenting physicians or nurses in a very
how to alienate your ideal customers in one TikTok video or less. It's like you can't do that, but
yeah, anyway. It's okay to have humor and be funny, but when it comes to a profession where our pride and our reputation and everything else and battling stereotypes, that's not a good move. Anywho, well, this coming up week, we want to make sure we mention our next two. Oh, I'm so excited. This is going to be a really cool week coming up as well. This is the next episode is 34, which will be releasing by Monday. Dr. Caleb Redden, #DocThor, who is a sports medicine physician. He's there's so many great takeaways
that was
from that conversation.
That was a great episode.
Yeah, I mean, some vulnerability we didn't expect there to discuss, and
we'll talk about prejudices, right? These lens of bias that we have, and so I think it's on Instagram. He calls himself Doc Thor or whatever.
Instagram. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it's because he looks literally like Thor from the Marvel universe. I mean, he looks like his brother. I mean, he's huge, bulky, got the beard and everything. Yeah. And when we see somebody with that sort of musculature, obviously you kind of think, well, they must be kind of a brickhead kind of a deal. And that interview went places I didn't think it was going to go. And some of those traumatic experiences that we all have in residency, which can be quite challenging, and oftentimes I think we just sort of gloss over and forget. But really, that was such a good episode. We actually had him come back again. Actually, we thought about another episode with him, but we did another episode. We have another one, and we should probably do with him. But really, really good, super fun guy to talk to. So that's awesome episode, super awesome.
Yeah, don't miss that one. You definitely have to check that out. And the following one for the next Thursday is time management strategies for time-strapped physicians with Dr. Brent Lacey. That's a return episode where Brent Lacey's original episode was in episode 12. And there's some really good points. I mean, there's many physicians that we just sometimes need reminders of how to kind of get your life in order or manage things a little better so you're more efficient with your time. And definitely make sure to tune in for that one as well. Any other things I missed, Kevin?
No, I think that was good. And that's Brent Lacey with the Scope of Practice podcast. Yes. So he also has a podcast. He's a gastroenterologist. So kind of interesting stuff in there, which was fun. And I'm just kind of looking at the other episodes. We have a lot of good episodes coming up. But I think I say that every week, but these are all really good.
Yeah, we've got all kinds of people. We've got a famous YouTuber. We've got an astronaut. We've got, all kinds of cool physician stories of neat things they're doing. So you have to stay tuned.
Absolutely. Okay. So what are you doing this weekend? How are you going to end this week?
I don't know. I
didn't mean to put you on the spot like that. Holy moly!
With a bang. I'm actually going to make myself a little happy hour. How about that? You guys would take that to bang.
Oh, are we going to we should have a happy hour next Friday. Are we going to do it?
Is it next Friday?
Well,
let's see.
Well, the 23rd or the 30th. Eric Larson.
Got to do the 30th because I'm working like a 10 or 12 hour day on the 23rd.
All right, we'll have to do that. And Dr. Larson of the Paradox podcast, sorry, he was like, I'm on call on the 30th. I can do the 23rd, but we'll figure out something.
Well, I think we have a guest we're going to be interviewing at 1:30 your time, and then we'll do a little break and then have the happy hour our Friday faves going into happy hour type thing.
Friday faves.
Yeah, let's do that.
Friday's favorite happy hour is what it was going to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what 30th. Well, it'll just help us ride into Halloween.
There you go. Yeah, that used to be my favorite holiday, and I still have fond memories of it, even though I can't say I loved Halloween growing up. Like, do we have a couple seconds here? I'm going to just tell the audience on my happy Halloween memories and why Halloween was my favorite holiday all of my life up until I had some bad experiences. And still, I have really love Halloween. But I grew up in Nevada, Carson City, Nevada, which was a great place to grow up. Small town, close to Tahoe, but and Nevada Day. So the day that Nevada was admitted to the Union was October 31st.
Mm.
And what the state of Nevada then did was it gave you October 31st off. What this meant, growing up in Carson City, which is the capital of the state of Nevada, was there was always a big parade, and I'm not exactly, I guess it must have been the parade really, because I'm sure they didn't care about the kids in the school, but they gave you the 31st off. That was Nevada Day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess that was a statewide holiday, so everybody got the 31st off. But we would always trick or treat on the 30th. Mm-hmm. So in the city of Carson City, we would trick or treat on October 30th, which meant every single Halloween you had the next day off. So we would be out, and we're in a smaller town, different time, late, we were out running around town all over the place.
Because you could.
Parents had no idea where we were. It was freaking awesome. Like the absolute best. They've screwed it up since then. The legislator got together and they're like, oh, let's make Nevada Day always a Friday or something. Like, so it's not on the same day anymore. So all those poor kids are screwed. But man, I loved Halloween until I had an episode in college and got really drunk.
I love how we just, let the public know that, this stuff is on there probably forever. And, we just let people know we're human and
we've all done things.
Yes.
And,
that's right.
And I tell my kids, drinking, don't do that. It's not worth it, man. But anyway, I love Halloween. Halloween, and we should have a costume party someday.
Well, I am going to have a little costume party at my house. We'll have a few friends, close friends, and it's kind of one of those long driveways, and they have like each little part of the cement's kind of like a box or a block. So
a box of off.
Yeah, everyone's got their own box, and we're going to have music and have some lights lining down the driveway, and hopefully they'll stay up because I got
stay in their boxes.
The what?
You have to stay in their boxes.
Well, within reason, kind of keep your distance. But most of the time we're sitting, like when we do little happy hours in the driveway every couple weeks, it's, we're like 8 to 10 feet away, and, we're with a good breeze usually, except for when it's really super hot in the summer here in Austin. But yeah, so I'm excited to do a little decoration and makeshift some of these posts that I have to hopefully they'll stay all up high on the driveway. We won't, have to do limbo, walking through the little driveway lights.
The limbo lights.
Yeah. So we'll have music playing on a, Bluetooth little speaker and just have our own little beverage. And yeah, that's my Halloween thing. I'll probably do a little 70s outfit, something like that.
70s.
80s, disco, whatever.
70s is disco, yeah.
Yeah. I've got kind of those clunky, chunky, white, tall boot things.
Chunky white boots. Yeah, everybody needs a pair of those.
And a big old white headband, and maybe straighten my hair, which I do once every 5 years. It doesn't like to be straight.
Awesome. I'm jealous. I think we will.
Well, if you were here, we'd invite you, but
yeah, we're totally
in Oregon.
Yeah, I don't know. We're getting social anxiety. I think it's like, oh my God, talk to people in person. Why would we do that?
Yeah, I think we resorted to just, it's not because we're like super fearful. It's just kind of like, we're just going to challenge ourselves to be like very happy being homebodies in 2020 and discover new things and enjoy quality time and not spend money on frivolous, or at least not too much crazy stuff, because you're not traveling or doing anything like that. Nothing of great proportions. So, yeah.
I agree.
Well, one of these days we'll have to make it to Oregon, and did I say that right, or you say Oregon?
No, you don't say Oregon. You don't say it's Oregon.
Oregon.
Here's another thing for the listeners. Let me just give you a couple of hints. I've lived in different states. In these two specific states, we automatically know if you're a foreigner, meaning from another state, right?
Mm-hmm.
In Nevada, which is my blood and heart will always be in Nevada. If
Not
you
Nevada.
I freaking can't stand that. Like, I haven't lived there for 20 plus years, and it's like I love Nevada. And one time I was there, I'll never forget. I was driving down the road, and some freaking idiot, talk about bad advertising. The guy, the car radio ad, and they're like, "Oh, welcome to Northern Nevada," and I'm like, "Oh, this is just great. I will never shop at that place." So Nevada, right? Don't ever say Nevada unless you're an idiot.
Well, then I'm an idiot because I say that.
Well, when we know it, Matt, you're a foreigner, you're an invader. We don't want you in Nevada.
So that's the cue for me to turn an upside down idiot's guide to saying Nevada.
To saying Nevada. And the other one's Oregon. Like, you don't say Oregon.
Yeah,
Oregon.
I don't say that.
Yeah, but
that
some people
do.
Weird. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, you can say Texas, or you can say Tejas. We really weren't the original Texas people. It was my other half of me that lived here before, if anyone forgot. So
I mean, you can't really mispronounce Texas. I'm like, how?
No, you can't. But some people say Tejas in Spanish, which is fine.
Same way. Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of other states that you can screw up.
Minnesota.
But is it Minnesota? That one's a hard one. You can't really screw that one. Colorado.
Florida.
That's it. Florida.
Yeah,
I like that one.
That's a totally different one. That's a totally different context.
Pronunciation.
Oh my God.
Yeah. All
okay.
Right. Gotta go. We're getting goofy here.
Yeah, it's okay. It shows that we're not just stuffy, boring. Well, they might think this is boring, but stuffy physicians that have no fun. But
well, we haven't done that episode. Us as stuffy physicians. We should do that one.
Stop being so stuffy.
Stop being so stuffy, and no expression. We'll just sit there and.
Yeah.
I have no expression. Oh, it's like I started watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Have you watched that show?
Mm-mm.
Oh, my daughter was watching it like a couple months ago. She's like, "This is really good." I'm like, "Okay, I'll watch it some point." And I just started watching. It is so funny. And like Captain Holt, he's the captain of the precinct. Just no expression. He's showing more. I'm in like season 3 now, so there's a little bit more. But it's the funniest thing because he's just like totally dead. I am smiling. We should do an
What
episode.
do you mean?
I am smiling. Can't you see the joy in my expression?
Oh my God. Yeah. There could be all kinds of ways we can go through that discussion, because I can be like Spock at times, but it's just part of my nature and training and all that. So
we should do it. We should do a Friday Faves on did she or did she not say it? And we'll just say some random things, like, and just see whether it was ridiculous or not. Did Dr. Katie say this or did she not?
No. Well, you're gonna have to come up with those.
I know. I'm just thinking that would be hard because I have to figure out things that you said, but I don't know. We'll talk to Corey, and he probably has good things.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure he's got all kinds of stuff on me. The beauty of living with me for 11 years. So cool. Well, right. Until next time, we are the Change Physician podcast and community. I am Melissa Katie with my co-host Kevin Cuccaro, and this is Friday Faves on October 16th, and we'll plan on seeing you another Friday Faves next Friday. Y'all take care.
Figure that.
All right, let me find my end live video.